His fingers moved quickly through banana peels and old wrappers. The plastic bag rattled as he filled it with dry paper and cardboard. Flies buzzed nearby, but he barely noticed anymore. He knew which bins had better paper. He had learned through hunger. A cough escaped him, dry and shallow, but he kept working. The city passed by behind him. Cars, noise, footsteps, none stopping. He crouched deeper, searching the bottom for something worth saving. And then, something colorful caught his eye. He pulled it out gently, afraid it might fall apart in his hands. The cover showed a smiling bear in a red scarf, half torn, but still smiling. His breath caught in his throat as he turned the first page. It smelled of dust and ink and memory. He sat on the pavement, cross-legged, flipping each fragile page like treasure. His eyes filled before he even realized it. No one had ever given him a book. Now the trash had. He hugged it to his chest, shaking silently under the sun. Across the street, a woman sipped her coffee slowly, eyes fixed on him. She had passed that alley before, never looked twice. But something about the way he clutched the book stopped her heart. She reached into her bag, pulling out a small notepad. The pen moved on its own. "Boy with a book in the trash," she wrote. Tears blurred her notes. She blinked hard, kept writing. Some stories don't shout. They sit quietly against walls and wait to be noticed. The shelter room was quiet, except for the flicker of a tired light bulb. He sat curled in the corner, book open on his knees. His finger followed each word, mouth moving silently. He didn't understand every word, but he felt every picture. The bear was his friend now. The forest, his dream. He read it again, then again, afraid it might disappear if he stopped. A yawn escaped him, but he didn't close the book. It was the first story that belonged to him. The photo appeared on page 3, beside headlines of traffic and stock prices. It showed a boy with bare feet and wet cheeks, hugging a torn book beside a bin. The caption read, "Treasure in the trash, a boy and his book. No D, in Heidi must." In a publisher's office, someone stopped flipping the page. "Who is this boy?" he asked aloud. No one answered, but the silence made space for an idea. "We can do something about this," he said. And that's how books began to move, not just into stores, but into lives. He heard footsteps, more than usual. The door creaked open, and a group of people stepped in carrying boxes. They wore lanyards and smiles, not uniforms or warnings. One woman knelt beside him, holding out a book with 2 hands. "We read about you," she said. "And we brought more stories." His eyes darted from face to face, unsure if this was a dream. Then, gently, he reached out and took the book. The story wasn't just his anymore. It was growing. Tables were covered in colors, books with dragons, trains, stars, and songs. Other kids gathered, eyes wide, mouths open in wonder. He stood off to the side, the original bear book still in his arms. A volunteer called, "You get first pick, okay?" He shook his head. "They can go first." "Yee." The woman smiled, touched by a heart bigger than his frame. One boy tugged his hand. "You're the one from the paper, right?" He nodded shyly. "I just found a book. That's all." "Nice." In a room full of paper and blueprints, a new idea took shape. What if we built something, not just gave books, left a place for them? The team nodded, flipping through designs. A corner shelf, a reading chair, a window with light. It has to be in his neighborhood. Let him keep it alive. Emails buzzed. Approvals came. Paint was chosen. And far from the towers of the city, something simple began to rise. A place where books would never be thrown away again. The corner smelled like fresh paint and new beginnings. Books lined new shelves, spines straight and waiting. A reading mat, some beanbags, even posters on the wall. He peeked inside, still unsure if he belonged. "This is yours too," someone said behind him. He stepped in slowly, touched the bookshelf gently. The wood was real. The books weren't borrowed. This was a home for stories. And he, somehow, was part of that home now. The room glowed like a lantern in the fading evening. He sat in a small chair, the bare book open on his lap. Around him, younger children listened with wide eyes. And the bear said, "No matter where you are, you belong." His voice trembled at the words, but he kept reading. One child leaned on his knee, another rested their chin on the mat. He looked up, heart full, voice clear. This was no longer the story of one boy and one book. It was the start of many. He sorted the books by letter now, out to one side, Z to the other. The shelves were getting full, not just with stories, but with laughter. He taught the other kids how to take care of the pages. Don't fold corners, don't tear. Books are like people, they deserve care. One girl brought flowers for the reading table. Another painted the walls. He never said it aloud, but this place had become his heart outside his chest. And every time someone read, it beat stronger. A woman with chalk-dusted hands stepped inside, eyes full of surprise. "I'm the new teacher at the community school nearby," she said. "I heard about this place. I had to see it myself." He showed her the borrowing notebook. Names, dates, smiles. She sat on the floor with the children, storybook in hand. "You've built something sacred here," she whispered to him afterward. He looked down at his old torn book, the one that started it all, and nodded. Even things from trash could bloom if read enough. Envelopes arrived daily, childlike handwriting, stickers on the corners. "Thank you for the books. I read my first story. I want to write too now." The office walls became a patchwork of joy. The publisher leaned back, holding a drawing of a boy hugging a book. "He changed us too," she murmured to her team. "Let's build more. If we can do one, we can do 10. The printer clicked to life, new shipment labels being printed. From one corner library, a movement had begun. The fair smelled like popcorn and possibility. Their booth had drawings, stacks of books, and tiny chairs. He sat in the middle, storybook raised high, voice strong. Children leaned in, eyes wide, mouths open in wonder. One mother said quietly, "He reads like it's a prayer." Yain? He read every line like it mattered, because it did. When he finished, the applause wasn't loud, but it was deep. He didn't smile for attention. He smiled because he felt full. He turned the last page and placed the book gently back on the shelf. The mini library hummed with quiet energy even in silence. He walked to the door, turned off the lamp, and stepped outside. The stars blinked awake, like punctuation after a beautiful sentence. He locked the door with care, not to keep people out, but to protect magic inside. As he looked up, a thought rose in him. This isn't the end of a story. This was the middle. The real end? He hadn't read it yet. And maybe, just maybe, he'd write it himself. The ribbon fluttered as it was cut, a burst of applause echoing off the fresh-painted walls. Parents stepped in first, gasping at the space, the shelves, the light, the color. Then came the children, tiptoeing in like explorers in a new world. He stood by the entrance, wearing a new shirt, eyes shining. The publisher gave him a nod. "You were the seed of this." Yoin. He didn't speak, just looked around at what one book had become. This was no longer a corner of kindness. It was a garden. The reading corner had pillows, a rug, and quiet music playing. He sat beside a little girl who looked nervous. "You want animals or magic?" he asked. She pointed shyly, and he picked the perfect book. They flipped pages together, each picture opening a new door. "You read really nice," she whispered. He grinned. "You will too, someday. That's what books do." The room around them softened into peace and stories. At school, he sat by the window now, not because he was forgotten, but because he liked the light. The teacher handed him a blank notebook. "Try writing something of your own," she encouraged. He stared at the page for a long time, then began. "Once there was a boy who found a story in the trash." His pen moved slowly, then faster, sentences coming to life. He wasn't just a reader anymore. He was a storyteller in the making. The stage was small, the microphone wobbly, but his voice didn't shake. "This book was once in the trash," he said, holding it up. "Now it's the first one in our new library, and I still read it every night." The crowd listened, silent and still. When he read the bear's last line, people clapped, not just politely, but deeply. Behind him, banners waved. Words can save worlds. "Yeah, nee." He stepped down, cheeks flushed, heart flying. The library glowed like a lantern in the growing dusk. He sat alone now, a new book in hand, but the old one nearby. Its cover still torn, pages still faded, but it had never looked more beautiful. He placed it on a small display labeled, "The First Book." "Yeah." Outside, laughter and footsteps echoed, another generation coming in. He whispered to the book, "Thank you." "Ish, yeah." Not for the story it held, but for the story it started. And then he opened the next book and began again.